Chapter 2. Marty. I rolled my eyes. Demetri didn't need any help from Mother Nature to increase the drama. I'm sure he's one of those people who would take the power going out as a sign of things to come. You know, woo-woo bullshit. When the only thing it was a sign of was lightning. Listen, maybe a nap would do you good, I said. It's a neat old box, but it's nothing to lose your head over. I mean, seriously, I doubt the whole city would lose its shit over this thing. Plus, I've lived in Minos my whole life, and I've never heard of the SOC, so they can't be that big of a deal. Besides my new boss being sleep-deprived, I had to admit, this was going pretty well. He didn't even care about the Cynthia Caldwell thing. Dodged that bullet successfully. Now I just needed to get us back on track. Kid, you don't know what you're saying, Demetri said from the chair behind his desk. Luckily, I could see the glow of his cigarette, which was almost gone again. My lungs hurt for him. No wonder the smoke had rolled out the way it did. I might have some whiskey in my purse, I said, ignoring his doom and gloom voice, as soon as... Just then, the lights popped back on, and I got a good look at my boss. It wasn't a pretty picture. He was useless to me like this. I picked up my purse and started rummaging around for my flask. It was in here somewhere. Come on, he said, jumping up suddenly. We're getting this thing out of here. Whoa there, eager beaver, I said, stepping in front of him. I think we need a timeout. Just a quick nap. What do you say? Are you out of your damn mind? He asked me and tried to push me out of the way. Stay here if you wanna, but I'm getting this thing out of here now. Humor me for one more minute, I said, holding my ground. If we just toss this in the ocean, will that solve everything, or will the city still go nuts? I don't know any myths surrounding this thing, so maybe you could explain it to me. I'll even go grab us some coffees from around the corner. How does that sound? I don't think we should be rushing into anything here. He stopped at this and considered what I was saying. The crazy in his eyes seemed to dial it down a notch. His eyes shifted from one end of the room to the other, still searching for unfamiliar shadows. But he nodded and returned to his chair. He lit another cigarette and said, All right, maybe this requires a bit more thought. Why don't you go get those coffees? You got it, boss, I said perkily, and got myself out the door. The D Club was just around the corner, and I could grab us some breakfast and Black Russians to go. After I placed the order for our drinks, eggs, and toast, I sat down and perused the paper I was still carrying. I felt a little guilty about the Caldwell woman. I should have told her a different story, or just told her to get over it and find someone else. It never occurred to me she would kill him. She was so dainty, and it took some grit to plug someone. Hell, I even respected her a little more for it. I was gone a total of 30 minutes. When I got back, Demetri was still staring at the box like it was going to come to life and stab him any second. I handed him his Black Russian. He took a whiff and nodded approvingly. I set up breakfast the best I could on his desk. Somehow he destroyed all my earlier efforts to organize him. All right, tell me about this labyrinth, I said.
Demetri, what was it with this dame? Never heard of the Seekers? What, had she been living under a rock? Head buried in the sand? I shook my head at her question. But going this alone would be trouble. An extra pair of eyes and set of hands would do wonders in making it out of this in one piece if it was going to go down the way I thought it would. Look, kid, to start, the Seekers of the Center and this box, I said, pointing at the thing, are like a rat in a maze looking for its cheese. They'll come looking for it. No doubt they already have word that it's in town somewhere. They have ears in the walls. And just because you ain't heard of them just means they've gotten better at hiding themselves. I sipped at my coffee and went to my office window, checking the streets outside for anything out of place. They got their start a long time ago. Longer than even Minos has memory of, I'd wager. If you look in the books, you might find something about how old man Ezekiel Edson had to chase them out of one of his mines after discovering they'd set themselves up down there. A lot of that information went missing, though. Most of what I could dig up on them went missing, and there's a reason for that. I watched a car drive by, the light glinting off the rain-soaked streets, spotted a couple of shadows with an umbrella crossing quickly after it had passed. When I called them roaches, I meant it. Can't get rid of them. And where you find one, there's always more, and they got their filthy hands in everything. If you believe they're there or not, they're there. I heard the kid munching on her toast, nibbling at it as she listened to me. Even without looking at her, I could tell she didn't believe me. The air that came off her said it all. Old Demetri Bolton was off his rocker and needed some shut-eye. And maybe I did, sure enough. But when it comes to the SOC, you don't want to give them a chance to move before you do. I'd seen more of the Seekers than I'd ever care to again, and the kid needed convincing. You remember that string of suicides a few years back? I said, turning to her, my face hardening just thinking about it. All those young girls at Edson Huxley College. I paused and took a deep breath. Just mentioning it brought back things I never wanted to know. Things no man should have to see. The kid looked at me, nodding as if she remembered and waited for me to continue. Well, it wasn't a string of suicides. It was just one goddamn big one. I sipped my coffee. It was something like 10 years ago, and those in charge thought it would scare folks if they knew the truth about it. So they bent it, squirreled away details, and then tossed it out like old garbage. How could they even do that? Marty asked, the skepticism clear in her voice. With how many people were involved, not just the dead, but the officers on the scene, something would have leaked. I looked at her, and really looked. She was just a kid. Maybe a little hardness to her eyes from some past troubles. But she was a kid. It wasn't fair to involve her in this. But she wasn't going to leave. Had a scent of something she wanted, like a bloodhound, and she was going to get it, come hell or high water. I sat in my chair and sighed heavily. Look, kid, something you'll learn sooner or later. When the powers that be want something to go away, it goes away. And there isn't a damn thing you, me, or God can do about it. So it disappeared. That's why I quit the force. I looked at my coffee, swirling the contents around a bit. Blackness causing a small whirlpool, waiting to drag the unlucky fool who got caught to the bottom, and always coming back to a placid surface, like there wasn't a thing wrong with that. I heard the kid cough, and realized I'd been lost in my thoughts a little too long. I cleared my throat and continued. And it wasn't just a mass suicide. It was ritualistic. Those poor girls. I got choked up a bit remembering the scene like I was standing back in that room. They had painted the walls with their own blood. Strange things. Things that didn't make sense. The worst part of it was there was someone who was with them. We thought he was the ringleader, some mastermind that orchestrated, or maybe just some innocent fool who got caught up trying to squeeze a dame. Found his footprints in some of the blood, but we didn't find him. I slammed my coffee on the desk, spilling its contents on some papers, and stood up. Before we were able to start asking around about it, we got the order to shut it down. Keep everything hush-hush or be thrown to the dogs. I wouldn't take that, so I left, with the promise that if I spoke out, there wouldn't be much left of me when the dogs had had their way. I looked up at the kid, stared right at her eyes, trying to get a read on her. Either I was off my game or the kid was a cool player. She didn't give anything away. I shook my head. We found some SOC materials with them, writings and such, all over the room. 12 girls dead, bled out, one missing suspect, and me on my own hunting that bastard for years, with nothing to show for it until now, in that box. I picked up the Gift of Minos and stared at it. That's how I know about this box, kid. I did a lot of digging, got my hands dirtier than most would have nightmares about. Probably why the damn thing found its way to me in the first place. I let out a dry laugh, collapsing back into my chair and lighting another cigarette.
Marty. I stare at him in disbelief. It's like he totally ignored my question and went somewhere off in left field. He at least stayed in the ballpark, but I could see how people got the idea that he was slipping. That's all great information, but I still have no idea what the box is or why they want it. I mean, there must be a myth or a legend, right? I ask. Patience is a virtue, kid, he says and downs the last of his coffee. I was just getting to that. Sweet baby Jesus. This guy was worse than my granddaddy about getting to the point. I had to fight the urge to shake him. I managed to nod for him to continue without looking annoyed. The box is a puzzle given to King Minos by his father, Zeus, as a gift. If Minos could solve the puzzle, it would open and inside would be the ambrosia of the gods. He could drink it and rise to Olympus to take his place at his father's side. Obviously, Minos failed, and the myth says that his punishment was to become a judge of souls in the underworld with his uncle. But who knows about that part? What is real is the box, he said. They want to become gods? I asked. Worse. They want to give it to Minos' stepson, Asterion. He said. The Minotaur? I asked. The very same, he said. The Minotaur died in legend, or I'm pretty sure he did, I say. Myths always have more than one way of ending, Demetri says. The SOC believes that despite popular belief, Ariadne did not lead Theseus to her brother, whom she actually loved. She instead begged for his life. Theseus took pity and helped her devise a way to trick the Minoans into believing the Minotaur was dead. Theseus then took them both to safety on the island of Naxos, where they kept with the idea of Dionysus falling in love with her. However, in their version, Dionysus is jealous of Ariadne's love of her brother and punishes him again by making him immortal and banishing him from his sister's side, doomed to walk the earth as a monster forever, unloved. To cut an already long story short, the Minotaur wants revenge. He wishes to become a god himself to reap his revenge on all those who wronged and abandoned him. You're telling me that you believe the Minotaur of myth and legend is looking for that box? I asked, worried that I had misjudged Demetri. This wasn't down on your luck stuff. This was batshit crazy, and that I couldn't work with. That's not what I said, he corrected me. I said that's what the SOC believes. They're cultists, lunatics that believe Astarion's war on the gods will also bring about the end of the world as we know it, so the dawn of the age of monsters can arise. Silly question. Why don't we just let him have the box? I mean, what harm can it do? Magic? Gods? It's all fairy tale stuff. Who cares if they have it? It gets them off our case and gets us back to working real cases that don't involve imaginary creatures. Because they also believe that blood sacrifices are needed to open it. And I don't need any more deaths weighing on my conscience. I don't think you'd like that either, considering your part in Mr. Etson's death, he replied. So he had been paying attention after all. Damn. Alleged involvement. We don't know who killed him yet, I reminded him, but my stomach sank. It would be a lot to ask that his death and my scene with Cindy in Demetri's office yesterday were merely coincidental. Lightning flashed in the window again, the crash of thunder not far behind it, and the lights went out. Again. Damn, I said. Don't you have a candle or something? Those clouds are dark enough, it might as well be night. We don't need no candles. We need to grab that box and get out of here, Demetri says, getting to his feet again. We both jump when the door jiggles loudly. Someone was trying to get in. Sharp rapping followed along with the distinct voice of Cynthia Caldwell. Demetri Bolton, I know you're in there. Open up this minute.
Demetri. What the hell? It's like I can't stop to think. So much requires my attention. And now I have a potential murder suspect at my door, as well as her potential accomplice as my new protege. For all the things in all the world, now is when dames are springing out of the woodwork. Where were they when I could handle this sort of thing? It was dark in the office. The whole building was dark, save for the occasional flashes of lightning giving us brief illumination. I grabbed the Gift of Minos and moved to the picture frame hanging behind my desk, pushing it aside to reveal an inlaid safe, something I had had installed to keep more valuable items and information stowed away should they become necessary. With a practiced hand, the combination was turned, the safe was open, and now safely storing the antique. The picture swung back into position as I began moving towards the door. Don't say a damn word. Not one. You sit quietly out of sight and you listen, I told the kid and pointed to a chair that was resting near the office windows. Not one word, I reminded her as I straightened my collar and tie. Quickly running a hand through my hair, I unlocked the door and opened it. With a flash of lightning, I saw Cynthia Caldwell. A man stood behind her holding a wet umbrella. It's about time, Cynthia stated, pushing past me into my office. She was already huffing. I shook my head as I turned to invite the man in, but he just turned his back and stood beside the entrance, watching the hallway. Not so much a word out of the guy. I nodded my head, closing the door. To what do I owe the pleasure, Miss Caldwell? I asked as she took off her coat and threw it at me. I could feel the dampness on it as I caught it and turned to put it on my hanger. Haven't you heard? She asked, slumping into the chair by my desk dramatically. Braden. My Braden. He's been murdered. Even through the dark, I could tell she was keeping her eyes on me. I saw the paper, my condolences. I replied, lighting a cigarette and making my way to sit behind my desk. Though, that doesn't quite answer my question. Why'd you come to me? She sighed heavily. They think I did it, Demetri. I don't know why they do, but they do. And the police are looking for me. I nodded as she spoke. Of course the police would be after her. The usual suspects for a murder are the ones closest to the victim. She was dancing around, not wanting to give me a straight answer. Dames. I didn't do it, I swear, she said, sitting up and straightening her back, her shoulders set and jaw tight. I hadn't even seen him the night he died. She paused and took a deep, practiced breath. Dame must have been rehearsing this. I need help, Mr. Bolton. If I go to the police, they'll hang me for sure. I know it. I tilted my head at her and took a puff from my cigarette, briefly illuminating the space. If you didn't do it, Miss Caldwell, you should have nothing to fear. The police won't think twice as long as you got a solid alibi for your whereabouts. She shook her head. They won't listen. That tramp will make sure of it. Dirty, no-good homewrecker. There was venom in her words. Athena Huxley? I asked, already knowing the answer. She nodded. And why would she have any sway over the detectives on the force? She's just as much of a suspect as you, I'd expect. She's a Huxley, Mr. Bolton, she said. I could hear the pout in her voice now. She was laying it on thick, not something I'd fall for. Wouldn't be the first time a dame has tried to play the innocent damsel. They got the police in their pockets, or so I've heard, she continued. And she'd point them in my direction, and before too long, I'm heading for the chair. She sobbed a bit. I'm too young for that, Mr. Bolton. Please, you have to help me. I could feel an eye roll coming from near the windows of my office, and I glanced at the kid. She was silhouetted in her seat. Gotta play him straight, kid. Can't go eye rolling at every client. I nodded at Cynthia, adding a bit of somberness to my voice. Well, Miss Caldwell, not sure I can do much in the way of help in this situation. Police wouldn't look too kindly at a dick like me poking around their investigation. I could see her shoulders shudder as her head dropped. She sobbed again. Please, Mr. Bolton, isn't there anything you can do? I sighed heavily. Dames.
Marty. Men could be so thick sometimes. I mean, yeah, she's a pain in the ass. And she probably did it. But this agency needed the revenue. Especially since it had just taken on a new detective who needed to be paid some wages. Not to mention, we needed Demetri's name back in the press, and mine right alongside it. Win or lose, our names would be on people's minds. Cindy, don't listen to him. His morning coffee hasn't kicked in. Of course we'll help. Demetri gave me a salty look and was about to interrupt, but I couldn't let him do that. We need half our fee up front, and it will be double what it was last time since you've got two of us working the case. Lightning flashed again and the lights came back on. Cindy was looking amused. She definitely thought she had us over a barrel. Ah, Martina, she said triumphantly. Marty, please. Only my mother calls me Martina, I said. Hold on one cotton-picking second here, Demetri said. This is my agency. I make the deals and I say what cases we'll take. Consider the fee tripled and completely upfront, she said, opening her purse and throwing the money on Demetri's desk. Done, I declared. Demetri stood silently looking at all the money. We reserve the right to up our fee if the investigation becomes more dangerous than usual. Naturally, she said. You know I'm good for it. I don't doubt it, I said with a smile. Well, Miss Caldwell, I think it's about time you let me and my apprentice here get to work, Demetri said, making sure I heard the underscored apprentice part in his words. I smiled warmly at Cynthia, but didn't dare look at my boss. I'd like a full report on your progress in 3 days, she said, dropping a card with her name and address on the desk, as if the whole of Minos didn't know where the Caldwell mansion was. We'll be there with bells on, Demetri said sarcastically, though Cynthia seemed to miss it. People like her weren't used to getting flack from the likes of us. Or she might have noticed but didn't care because in her world we were of little consequence, not worth the effort of snapping back. She stood and waited for Demetri to get the hint to help her on with her coat. Luckily, he picked up on the cue quickly. He assisted her with a gentleness I had not thought him capable of. He was so gruff and sharp around the edges that I half expected him to toss the jacket at her. But people can be full of surprises. "Thank you," she said, giving him her most seductive smile. I could see how that Edson kid had gotten involved with her. That smile was almost enough to make me swoon. As soon as I closed the door, Demetri closed the distance between us with frightening speed. "Listen to me, kid. You pull one more stunt like that and you're fired. I run this business, and that dame is bad news." "You need the money and the publicity," I said in my defense. "You'll never get back on top chasing that box. It's just a legend, for God's sake. We need real paid work. If she's innocent, we'll be all over the papers. People will be coming to us in droves. If she's guilty, we still got paid, and our names will still be on their tongues. That dame ain't nothing but bad news. There will be other decent paying jobs, but our highest priority is getting that damn hunk of wood out of the city." "Can't we do both?" I asked. That was when the door burst open. We were immediately surrounded by a dozen figures in dark brown robes. They smelled like rain, damp earth, and grass still wet from the morning dew. Then we heard clapping as Cynthia Caldwell walked back in, laughing hysterically. "Brava! What a performance!" She cackled madly. That was fun. The crowd parted to let her through. Demetri was patting himself frantically for what I assume must have been a weapon, but we had no such luck. Can we help you, Miss Caldwell?" he asked. She laughed, grabbing her sides, and a real tear fell from her left eye. "Oh, Demetri, you really are too much," she said, and pointed a gun in his face. All previous levity vanished. "Where's the box?"
Demetri. I knew it. I had known the whole damn time. Couldn't have suspected that the Caldwell broad would be part of it, but I knew they would be storming in for that unholy box. I lifted my hands up as Cynthia waved the iron in my face. "Easy now, Miss Caldwell. Don't need to have anyone carried out of here." I tried my best to look non-threatening, but who knew how she would interpret anything I did? "He put it in his safe," Martina said much too eagerly, pointing at the painting behind my head. "The code is 48818. She'd seen the damn code? What the hell? No way the kid had that good of eyesight. No way had she been able to see that when I had locked the thing up. It didn't make any sense. I was standing in her way. How? How had I made such a careless mistake? I was tired. "Just take the thing and leave," Martina continued. "We don't want any trouble. Just take the box and go." Cynthia turned her head and smiled at Martina. "Aren't you just a dear?" The smile was cold, but the lead that sent Martina flying back into the window wasn't. The shot was deafening in the room. My ears rang as I looked on in horror. Cynthia approached the kid's body. She wasn't moving. "Fuck Seafoam," she said, patting the now lifeless girl's cheek. I backed away a few steps, leaving room for her to get to the safe and gaining some distance. My eyes scanned the room quickly, and this was as sure a trap as ever I'd been in. No way out. Surrounded by robed lunatics, with a mad woman sauntering towards me with a damn big gun pointed right at me? "Well, shit," I exclaimed, dropping my hands to stare at what I would only assume was my executioner. Her smile grew wider, a wolf about to catch the rabbit. I pulled my cigarettes and a box of matches out of my breast pocket and offered one to Cynthia. She laughed at the absurdity of it. I shook my head and sparked the match, lighting my smoke and taking a nice long drag before exhaling a cloud of smoke. Life catches us all in the end. No way to stop it, I suppose. I took another drag as the broad looked on amused. I shook my head again and started to chuckle, my smoke bobbing along with my lips. "Do it," I said, staring hard at her. The smile vanished and she brought the gun up, dead to rights. But that's when I noticed something. A couple of markings along the barrel of this big piece in the dainty hands of a small dame. An engraving I remembered. Fiona? How the hell did she get her hands on my Fiona? The smoke dropped from my lips. I saw her smile grow. The gun was at my eye. Bang! I woke up in the dark. I'd thrown myself back out of my chair and against the wall behind my desk. I panted, sweating, one hand pawing at my face. A dream. I couldn't see my office. It was dark again. Must have been the storm knocking out the power. "Damn it, kid," I said, slowly pulling myself up. "Why'd you let me nod off?" No response. "Hey, kid." I looked around, but even in the dark, I could tell my office was empty. I picked my chair up, straightening it to my desk before fishing a smoke from my pocket. I sparked a match and brought it to the cigarette. That's when I noticed a note in a feminine scrawl. "Mr. Bolton, if we're going to work together, I can't have your head scrambled by some Grimm's fairy tale. I'll be back tomorrow morning so we can get on with actual investigations. Go home, get yourself some sleep. I need your head on straight and the cobwebs out of your eyes. See you tomorrow, Marty." What the hell? I thought as I puffed the cigarette to life. I couldn't go to sleep. Not with that damn box in my office. And that's when it hit me. Like a freight train. The box. It wasn't on my desk. Where the hell was it? I looked around frantically in the dark, knocking papers and my lamp onto the floor. The illumination from the flashes of lightning showed me that it wasn't there. And the safe. I turned and pushed the painting to the side, only to see the safe door ease itself open. The Gift of Minos was gone. She'd taken it. In my exhaustion, I must have forgotten to close the door properly. I gnashed my teeth and ran my hands through my hair and cursed aloud. "What are you thinking, kid? What kind of mad stunt are you trying to pull, after everything I told you?" I shook my head. Gotta get in the game. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out my shoulder holster and thankfully, Fiona. Hurrying to the door, I grabbed up my coat and hat. The next moment, I was out on the street, looking left and right in the rain. No sign of her. How long was I out? How much of a lead did she have? I jumped into the old gal and darted out into the night. This kid must have had a death wish, and I couldn't let that sit on my conscience. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
And welcome to Chapter 2's After the Duel.
All right, so how do you feel like Chapter 2 went?
Well, outside of us running into a little bit of snag, and I will tell everybody right now, that's my fault. I apologize. The late coming for this chapter is my fault. Blame me.
He's a slacker.
I was slacking pretty hard. I don't know. I liked it. I got thrown off a bit for some of it. I'm not gonna lie. Bringing Cynthia Caldwell back into it really threw me off pretty bad because I had plans for her to come up later, but you wanted to bring her in now, so...
Well, honestly, that was kind of like a revenge thing on my part because, like, I had set that up to where I was going to make you make up the whole myth about the box, but you just, like, skipped over that completely and then started talking about the cult and left me with the myth of the box.
Well, see, but that was the thing is, from Demetri's perspective, like, the myth doesn't matter. Fuck the myth. Sorry, pardon language. But the myth doesn't matter. All right? Screw the myth. Right? It's the crazy people that you got to worry about. Because myths are myths, man. Those loonies.
We have to know why the box is important to them.
Well, yeah, sure. We have to know why it's important. But I would rather... I would think, personally, it would be more important is, like, it's not so much what the ring is used for. Okay? It's that they're coming to get it, Mr. Frodo.
Well, you made me mad, and so I brought Cynthia Caldwell back and dropped her in your lap.
Yeah. Yeah. That was rough, honestly. And in my opinion on that, like, I thought it was too rushed bringing her back, especially when she came back in with the robed men. I thought that was way too much smack bam in the face, you know, like, we got to build a creep factor up first. I mean, this isn't going to just be a running and gunning action adventure type thing. It's supposed to be, you know, a little bit more on the creepy horror side.
Oh, no, I know. But I really wanted to mess with you, and I figured you would totally dreamscape it. Like, I pretty much thought that's what you would do with it. So...
You know?
It was just a way to kind of be like, you know, get everybody like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
But I figured you would totally dreamscape that because it was a little early. And you were super tired. You didn't sleep all night.
Well, see, and that was the only reason
I felt comfortable doing the dreamscape on it, by the way, is because Demetri was so tired. Like, if Demetri hadn't been tired, I would have played that out. Oh, I would have played that out. I would have forced you to deal with the consequences of your own actions. But no, I dreamscaped it. Honestly, I like the dreamscape. I thought the dream was, if to toot my own horn here, I thought it was pretty fun. Bringing back the whole sea foam line, and
I really did like that. I like that you brought that back in.
And the fact that my favorite line from the dreamscape part was when Demetri himself realized, like, I'm tired, like, just damn, you know. That was my favorite line from that sequence of events. That one and the seafoam line. I thought it was kind of fun.
I was really glad you did a callback to that. So,
but it's real frustrating when, you know, you got this, you know, old experienced detective trying to explain things to this young kid who's wanting to get in the game, and for her to completely ignore him and treat him like the grandpa in the nursing home who has skipped his meds. And it's just like you came here to learn from him, and now you're just gonna, no, you're an old man who doesn't know what he's talking about. Go to bed, Grandpa. It's okay.
I think she's just a little worried about you because she doesn't take this whole myth thing very seriously at all.
No, not at all. And even after he got done explaining to you the whole mass ritual sacrifice thing, you're like, meh, doesn't matter. You're crazy. Go take a nap. And,
well, she just thinks he's kind of blowing it out of proportion, you know? And so she's like, maybe you do need some sleep and then we can be reasonable in the morning.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that Marty also has her own agenda.
Yeah.
And so when you're veering off from that agenda, she's trying to guide you back there.
Yeah.
Because she's very kind of hyper focused on the one thing she wants to do.
Yeah, she wants to find her sister, and I know, I understand that, I do, and it speaks well of her character that she's keeping to that, you know. It's just it's difficult because I mean, there's this bomb getting ready to go off. And I know all about this bomb. Let me tell you about this bomb. And no, my sister, sir. My sister. And it's just like, you.
I feel like if it was a real bomb, though, she would have taken that more seriously. But where it's oh, this is folklore and some old case that he's chasing. And, you know, you're super tired and haven't slept.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've been smoking and chain
smoking
all night. So
no, and see, and that's one thing that honestly, it's frustrating because I can put myself in Demetri's shoes, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And to see Marty doing this to Demetri, it's oh, would you just listen to the man? Just listen to the man. You why just listen to him. Don't do. Okay, this is what we're doing. Fine, but it works well because that it's one of those things with Professor Umbridge,
mm-hmm.
right? You hate Professor Umbridge, but that actress, oh, you love her, because she brought Umbridge to life and she did it justice. And it's just
no,
it's one of those things, you know. It's like I hate it, but I actually really like it
mm-hmm.
because it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was seeing in your writings that's Demetri doesn't talk like that. Wait one cotton picking minute here. Okay, so when I first started doing Demetri's voice, it had a southern twang to it.
It did.
And we did some crowd testing with some relatives, and I got pretty much laughed at for my southern accent and told, dude, try something else. This isn't working. This isn't working. I wonder what they think of my weird not Eastern, Boston-esque accent that's not really anything in particular because I keep jumping in and out of it. So
it was pretty good today.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. Because apparently when I'm doing his accent or trying to do his voice, I jump into being very Boston-esque or like East Coast, where I say "pock" and "caw" and "doc."
It was pretty good. Oh, it was good.
Gosh.
I could just tell how frustrated he was. And then I started laughing while he was recording. Poor guy.
Yeah, give me crap. So that was fun though. Like definitely I'm enjoying that part of it.
That was kind of what I wanted to talk about it.
Oh. Well, if that's all you wanted to talk about, I've got more. Another thing I think is kind of funny is because she's treating him and now like, yeah, I'm all over the place here, guys. Welcome to my brain. This is what it does. Frustrates the wife to no end. But another thing that I think is kind of funny myself is, Marty has been employed, quote unquote, for like a day. And already she's like shanghaiing Demetri's business, like making deals with clients and customers, completely shutting him out of the conversation. And
well, that's because it's her single-minded, like, get Demetri back on top, get Demetri like doing what he's supposed to be doing so that she can use his resources, his knowledge, and everything he has to find her sister Charity.
Yep. And that's why I was going to point out too is that like she's definitely like fame and money hungry.
Because, I wouldn't say she's fame and money hungry.
Get you more publicity, get you more money coming in. We triple that, double that. It's like what? But of course, Cynthia Caldwell, she's like, oh, I'll just throw money at this. I mean, she's a rich,
Well, and this is also Dream Cynthia Caldwell.
Yeah. Well, no. See, and that was something I was going to bring up too. There's a slight plot hole here. You don't know when Demetri fell asleep because the box was in the safe because the safe was open. But when did he fall asleep? Ba-ba-bum. Oh, you didn't think of that part, did you? Threw you off your game.
Yeah.
On guard. So, but I think chapter two turned out pretty well. I'm hoping chapter 3 will bring some more interesting moments. I think.
Yeah.
Give us some more things to chase after, solidify the story a little bit better. I think we're doing a fair decent amount of world building and talking about the cult and the box itself.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about the box, I'm assuming, later.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are keeping up with us, thank you very much.
Yes.
And catch us next time in chapter 3 of
Dueling Pens, the Labyrinth of Minos.
Have fun. See you later.
We'll see you later. Remember to like and subscribe and do those things.
Follow us on social media. We got that in our description. And we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye. I can't believe you left me in the room with that woman.